Welcome back to our real estate news show. I'm Dylan Silbernagel. This is my wife Jennifer. This is where we bring you all the real estate news around the GTA and Toronto that we think you need to know about. We've been helping families make smart real estate decisions now for 12 and 13 years. Let's jump right into the show.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to start off today by talking a little bit about what we said we'd talk about last week, the banks releasing their quarterly reports. And there was an article we read where they thought that quarter to quarter we were going to see a little softening in their earnings. But everything we've read so far, since everybody released their reports, it's very positive. Obviously, they're up year over year, which we all kind of knew was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But essentially, the person that was making these predictions about potentially softening quarter to quarter can't find anybody else corroborating or saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Part of that might just be because these reports, when they come out, they're also positive anyway. Like, they're releasing them with a very positive spin. So until somebody really digs into it to say, hey, maybe the interest rates did soften their business a little bit, there's nothing that we can verify for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's also someone has to sit down and, like you said, really crunch those numbers. And also the article that we saw last week, there's been no follow-up to that.
No, nothing from that author just yet.
Yeah, so we have, until we have something there, I mean, there's not much to say, but odds are it's just that there's nothing to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And last week you were mentioning that we'd talk a little bit more about cannabis in the home.
Yeah.
Specifically to deal with lenders and insurers. I think today we're going to talk mostly about lenders. Is that right?
Yeah, so really what we were seeing was that there was a lot of hiccups coming up, and we were getting a lot of conversation happening in our industry between agents about what their buyers are experiencing and having trouble getting lending when are plants evident in the home. And so I wanted to look into that more and dig a little deeper. It turns out there's same results you got. There wasn't much tangible to really run off of. There's no announcements, there's no legislation saying this is how it has to be treated. Yeah, the
lenders haven't come out and said this is our policy on this.
Correct, yeah, but what we are seeing industry-wide and what we're hearing people say is that their buyers are coming up against some issues and that sellers are having hiccups in the sense that it seems to be mainly in the way that appraisers and lenders are looking at a home if there has been any cannabis present. And by present I mean grown on the property. So legally we're allowed up to 4 plants, but what we're hearing is that as buyers are going to get lending for these particular homes where there are plants, there's hiccups with the lending, or they're just not getting given the lending, or the appraisals are coming in really low due to the presence, and it's impacting what lending they're able to get, which means then in some scenarios they're not actually able to go through with the purchase of the house. So overall, same as you, not much to say other than let's be aware that this is out there, it is happening. We are getting evidence from other realtors, but currently that's all we can go on. Yeah.
Yep, so again, no update there, just pay attention to it and be aware of it.
And know that it's a thing if you're shopping or as an agent, if you have clients, whether sellers or buyers, be aware that the banks are treating it, even though it's legal, there's still concerns and they're high risk, so they're still looking at it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to jump into more talk on the REBBA reforms.
Yeah.
So this is the Real Estate Business and Brokers Act. It was written in 2002. There's been a lot of calls for it to be updated, specifically even from within the industry.
It's pretty dated at this point.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, back then we didn't even have stuff addressed for electronically sending everything, right? Like we had faxes, but we didn't have as much of our e-signatures and all that stuff that we're using now.
Yeah.
And so no major news here, except that there was a meeting last week where the different parties of government got together, the Ontario Real Estate Association got together, and everybody was giving their speeches on, hey, we do want to take a look at this. Specifically, they're looking at upgrading the standards for ethics, the standards for training. Trying to think of what else they're really looking at. They didn't really mention at all the talk of adding in new legislation for the multiple representation, where in a multiple offer scenario, an agent may represent both the buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
That hasn't really been talked about. So.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, that's the underlying cause of all of these conversations.
Yeah, that was the one that was affecting it the most.
Yeah, that came up, and now they're kind of going, hey, like, let's look at all of this, and like Tim Hudak is involved, and the premiers are involved. Like, there's a lot of people involved in trying to figure out, hey, how do we make this more up to date and better for everybody? Most importantly, the public, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things that stood out to me in the article was was when they were talking about introducing the articling period. So most of the time, if you're becoming a lawyer, if you're becoming a doctor, you get your initial training, you write your exams, you pass, and then you have what they call an articling period or a residency.
Or apprenticeship in other industries. Yeah.
So right now we don't really have that in real estate. You just kind of go and do once you have your license. And, you know, as a coach, because that's what I teach people and coach people on, is kind of how to run an actual business, what you need to do. I love that. I really do hope that of all the things in there that they do implement that, because it's going to be so much better for the new agents. It's going to be so much better for the reputation of the industry. And it's going to be better for the public because they're going to get someone who's not learning on that transaction what to do necessarily, right? And a lot of companies don't have mentorship programs in place right now. So I think that's a huge one that, you know, I do, that stood out to me when I read it as something that was like, that's very cool. I like that. I hope that it goes in that that route, right?
The only other thing that was really mentioned was it was a chance for Doug Ford again to say why they're canceling the Green Energy Act. And again, it's just saying that they didn't like the idea of the energy audits being in there required for every sale, specifically saying that it targets or that it impacts the most seniors and low-income families. Another expense for them in the sale of a home. So
I don't disagree with that argument either. So
sorry, I don't disagree with it either. I just don't agree.
I don't agree.
Yeah, but anyway, so that was it for REBBA.
Yep, so we'll keep an eye on that as well and see if anything else comes up. But,
absolutely. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Google affiliate Sidewalk Labs has revealed their plan for a new smart community, essentially down at Toronto East Waterfront.
Okay.
It's been talked about before, but just last week they released some more of the plans, a little site plan and some pictures of how great this thing's going to look, some of the technologies they want to put into it.
Yeah, it's about 12 acres. Right?
Yeah, 12 acres.
Developing,
it looks really cool.
Yeah, it does.
But at the moment, they don't really have any partners to help build it just yet. At least not financial backers that are going to be putting a lot of this money in. And they don't necessarily want to be a developer, but they believe in this technology so strongly that they said, hey, we're still in talks, but we're willing to probably be the one that puts up a lot of the money in this situation, because the idea, you can't prove it on a small scale. They have to build it. And show that this is the better way to do things.
And so what are some of the things they're talking about when you say smart community? Like do they talk about what they mean by that?
So some of it's going to be building supplies and how they build the home. And some of the other stuff they're talking about is having like an underground system for waste removal. Okay. So they'd have automated trucks or whatever, or robots picking up the waste from the different condos, because a lot of it is residential. There is obviously office and retail as well, but it's still residential focused. And so their goal would be to ease up some of the gridlock, like getting rid of the big trucks on the road and stuff like that. And if they had an underground system for moving freight or, again, moving the waste, that would be part of their
Interesting.
Their
that
setup.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's surprising that not more people want to get involved with the development. I mean, I understand that it's early, young technology, so I guess there's that concern. And for them, if they want to move ahead with the technology, they're not going to have a choice but to be the developers if no one else is going to want to get in and help them. I'm just surprised.
There was a quote from them saying that we understand that our margins at the moment aren't appealing to developers.
Right.
So I think they know that this is going to cost a little bit more. Even though they are still saying that some of their building resources are going to be more affordable, the other stuff's probably more expensive and it's different. So. But anyways, I'm going to have some of the pictures up of the area. We'll see what comes of it. I think they're meeting again December 8th, and then likely nothing again until like later on in the new year.
Right.
But we'll monitor it and see if this becomes a thing, because it's pretty neat.
It is. It's very cool. I love the idea of it. So hopefully they can get the support, or they just do bite the bullet and go, you know what, and they do really believe in it. So it might be a scenario where they're just like, this is just what it's going to take to get it done, and let's hope that they
depending on their funding, if they can make that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my last thing, I think, is that everything you were going to talk about?
That's me for today.
My last thing was just talking about, we talk a lot about staging and all that sort of stuff. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the general maintenance of your home, in the sense that a lot of the time when we buy a home, like, we're not moving in a year or two. So what can we do over the time that we're living in the home to keep it up to date, to keep it competitive, so that when you are ready to go on the market, you don't have to invest all this money into it right up front, right? Or you don't have this crazy long list, the staging list we give out sometimes because nothing's been done to the house for 10 years, and you're kind of like, well, this isn't really a thing anymore, and now we have to take you into what buyers want. So my thing is just a list of stuff that you can do now that will give you return down the road. Okay. So one of the first ones, you can't really, for us, I mean, at least we can't really do it this time of year, but obviously outdoor landscaping. We talk about this a lot with staging, but if you are getting ready to plant in the spring, consider planting some trees, because the idea behind that is that they're going to take some time to grow. But once they are mature, buyers tend to be more attracted to those sorts of backyards and those properties where there's more shade, more privacy. So if you're thinking, hey, we're here for 20 years, you plant trees now, in 20 years, you're going to have that ideal, serene backyard feeling that you can kind of take advantage of, and the buyers are going to really fall in love with. So, that was a cool one because it's much more long-term gain. But if you are looking at getting ready for what you're going to do this spring, throw some trees on your list if you can, right? The next one that comes up on the list is smart home devices. So obviously we all know about Nests, we all know about the thermostats, but there's like a plethora now of these smart home devices. Like you were showing me the other day, those smart light bulbs. And one of our friends, they just installed them, and we were there and they were showing them to us. Like they're cool. I don't really understand it in the sense of what value it adds, but people do seem to really like them.
I'd say the Nest is probably one of the biggest one, like a smart thermostat where you can connect to your phone. Items like that are things that buyers will pay attention to in a house, more so than the smart plugs and the lights and all that. The lights are cool, don't get me wrong, but
and they are more energy efficient. So if we're fast forwarding 10 years, hypothetically, having a more efficient home, having a home that you can control from your phone, like that is where things are headed. So if you even do this over time, then when you go to sell, you'll be competitive versus kind of being like, oh, nothing is smart in our house, right?
Exactly.
And the other thing they mentioned there, because that's what they talk about in the article as well, it is more about the thermostats and your home monitoring systems, your security systems, going the smart route with all of that technology versus just your standard, wall security. That's really what they're talking about also. So, if you're thinking about updating that stuff, really consider the smart technology versus your standard. And then they also talk about an automation hub, which is kind of the same thing where you have a setup in your house that everything's linked through the same setup or same system, and everything's run through that.
Kind of like a Google Home or an Alexa.
Yeah, or an Alexa
Dot,
or whatever those things are. Yeah. The next one, which is a big one, and it makes me look at our ceiling because we still have it. Popcorn ceilings. Basically, get rid of it. That's kind of where we're at right now. Nobody likes it. It's dated. It looks dated. When you walk into a house, it could be super modern, but if you look up and you have this beautiful kitchen with popcorn ceilings, people are just going to be like...
Or living room.
Yeah. Like, why is that? Why is that there, right? So one of the things you can do, it is a pain in the butt as a job, because you have to scrape the whole thing. You can do it yourself. You can pay people to do it. Just make sure if your home was built before 1978 that you go to Home Depot or wherever, get a testing kit, and check that there's no asbestos in that stippling before you start taking it down, for obviously a multitude of reasons, health being the main one. But other than that, get it gone, get it out of the house, because it's really more of the new homes right now, they're not using it. Flat ceilings are considered an upgrade, right? So when you walk in, something that makes something feel more modern is the fact that it has flat ceilings. So it can be an instant return.
Yeah, because I mean, even at new home subdivisions, the base option is, of course, the popcorn, because that's how they get it up so quickly. And they don't have to have the most skilled labor to do it, right?
They use it to cover everything.
Exactly. But if you go to a custom site, you're walking in, you're seeing the smooth ceilings and the flat ceilings. And so if you do it, you instantly get acquainted with that. And
it is. Like, even for us, we know with buyers, like, and I mean, I know we have friends that have popcorn ceilings, same thing, they hate it. Like, nobody likes it. It's just, it's cheap and easy, right? So if you can, get rid of that.
And I was there when you got there.
Exactly. The next one I'm going to kind of skip over. We talk about this a lot, decluttering and also painting. So painting, the one thing I will say, obviously do both. Make sure your house is organized and decluttered. You really don't have to do that unless you're kind of getting ready to go in the market. Painting, same thing. However, baseboards would be one that I would say keep a little more up to date on that if you can. Baseboards and trim and door frames, because they do get more banged up. They do get more dirty. People are touching them more, kicking them more, so they're going to show a lot faster. So that is something you probably should be doing a little bit more often, unless you want to have to redo all of the trim in your house when you go to put it on the market, which is a terrible job. Other than that, the rest of the paint stuff we reference in other stuff, so I'm not going to get into it. Light fixtures. That's a big one that people don't often think about, because you buy a house that comes with lights. So you're kind of like, cool, we have lights. But realistically speaking, if you're going to sell and it's 10 years down the road and you still have the builder quality lights up over your bathroom sinks, and there's the exposed bulbs, or the wall, the ceiling mount kitchen lights, and that people are going to automatically look at that as dated. So you can do this over time when you see a good deal or you're renovating a room. As you're doing it, upgrade the light fixtures to make sure that you're giving it a more modern finish, because it will take away from your overall result if you don't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, going along with the line of fixtures, the last thing really is your bathroom fixtures, your kitchen sink fixtures, your door handles, stuff like that. Again, over the years, see a good deal, update some stuff. By the time you're ready to sell, you should be caught up. But don't keep everything builder grade. And if your fixtures are old, like your kitchen sinks and stuff that gets used often, it's going to deteriorate. It's not going to work probably. Your shower heads are going to get full of lime, stuff like that. Make sure that you're replacing them, and you're replacing them with a bit more of a modern or updated style, as opposed to just kind of what is maybe the cheapest option, because people do pick on that stuff when they're shopping. So just some tips on how you can over time invest and update your home, so when you do go to sell, you're going to be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all of it for today.
That's everything. That's all I had anyway.
Perfect. So the stats for November should be out this week. Hopefully they're out before our show on Thursday, so we can run through them with you, let you know what's kind of been going on
what's been happening,
Other than that, nothing necessarily to look forward to other than our next bit.
Yeah.
But
no, I think that's everything. Like you said, if the stats are out, we'll do the show. If not, we'll cover it next week. But other than that, if you have any feedback or any comments or any tips or advice for us, please share it with us. We love hearing from you guys. We do try to implement everything that is shared with us so that we can try and make the show a little bit better. So, don't be shy. And obviously if there's a topic or information that we haven't covered that you'd like us to talk about, let us know, because we would love to cover that for you, and we'll definitely get to it pretty quickly. And as always, we have new shows every Tuesday and every Thursday. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a follow, like, so you don't miss the next episodes. And the descriptions, the links for all of the articles and everything we're referencing will be down in the description below, so you can click there and get more information if you want to. Other than that, just thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.